Recording in progress. Yes, you guys can hear me online? Okay. Remove spotlight. Okay. Very good. Dun, 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 dun. We are here to talk about, but how's it changing? No one to be seeing me. Yes, better. We're going to talk about an introduction to Tantra. Okay? So this talk was supposed to be actually in the beginning. I said it was going to be on a Saturday, and it was going to be, I think, I don't know, from 10 to 1 or something like that. It was going to be like a long talk. So then, because tomorrow we're gonna go and put these incredible plaques in the Everglades, so we decided to do it tonight. So we could spend probably lifetimes talking about Tantra, right? So what I'm gonna try to do here is probably an impossible mission. Yes. So it's really gonna see just a little bit for you guys to start understanding and contextualizing Tantra. Yeah. And especially to try to understand more about what Buddhist Tantra is and why it is important and why it's kind of like why it is special and important for us to really, really, really understand it and aspire to study it, right? To study, to contemplate, and to practice. Because the Buddha, the tantric path is what we call the swift path. Okay? But the swift path for what? So that's where we're gonna start. Let me start sharing this thing that I try to do, and I'm very sorry for those that have not. They are good with how do you say these things, because this is a very bad presentation. But okay, so we're gonna go and talk about it. So what makes a practice? You know, a Buddhist practice is the motivation and the aim. We talked about that yesterday, remember? We talked quite a bit about that yesterday evening as well for those that were here for the Lojong. So, what means the motivation? It means the wish to be free from suffering, okay? To eliminate the suffering from our own minds, okay? But not only that, it's the idea of either nirvana, okay, or enlightenment. Okay. So here we need to understand that there is two different types of schools based on this motivation. What we call the Hinayana. So it's the group of people that they were, let's say, um, they were happy with just achieving liberation from their own suffering. Okay? It doesn't mean that they were not helping others, but their aim was to release themselves from suffering. Okay? And normally these types of teachings that all of them came from the Buddha, but they went kind of like developing in different areas, especially stayed in the Southeast Asia countries like Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos. Then there was a different type of motivation that arose from the Buddhist teachings, which is the Mahayana motivation. Okay, the Mahayana means the upper vehicle, so it's kind of like it's a continuation of the Hinayana. So that means that all of us, in order to wanting to achieve the aims of Buddhism, we need to want to be free from suffering. That is there. That is, there is no discussion. However, what it comes on the Mahayana vehicle is the wish to do that in order to benefit others. And therefore, we realize that just being good, relaxed, and free from suffering is not enough to help others. I need to have the skills and I need to have an uncontaminated and unlimited compassion, right? To be able to do that. Okay, makes sense so far? So that is what we kind of like start to look and say, what are the methods that I need to achieve that aim of enlightenment? Okay. And what are the types of wisdom that I need in order to realize that type of enlightenment? Okay. So that is a little bit of what is the difference between the Buddhist kind of like being a Buddhist motivation. However, you are there now online and you're here. Wow. Very good. I love it. So what happens is that there is two paths for us to actually achieve that. What we call the sutra path, okay, and what we call the tantric path. The sutra path is the path that will develop, which is mainly what we are talking about in our classes. We go moment by moment, negative mind by negative mind, transforming it, and replacing it with a positive intention. And we go accumulating, virtuous mindsets and decreasing the negative mindsets. And we go doing this again and again and again, habituating ourselves. Yes? So that is the sutra path. We say that the sutra path takes 3 eons. So an eon, it's more than anything we can actually measure. So it takes time. Okay? That's the idea. It doesn't mean that it cannot be reached, but it just takes time. Then we have the tantric path. The tantric path we say we can achieve in one lifetime. Okay? We can actually make it, like possible for us to achieve that enlightened state. So that state of completely pure of our suffering and full of the good qualities, right? We can do that in this lifetime. So what do we need? We need to understand basically in the beginning the Four Noble Truths, no? The first teachings of the Buddha. We talked about it, I think, on Tuesday. Yeah, on Tuesday we were talking about the Four Noble Truths. Okay, so the Four Noble Truths were the first teachings of the Buddha. But actually, what we are trying to achieve is the third Noble Truth, which is called the truth of cessation. Okay, what does it mean that? That means that everybody knows what the Four Noble Truths are? No. Okay, I thought. So the Four Noble Truths were the first teachings of the Buddha. So the Buddha, the moment that he achieved enlightenment, means the moment that he realized the nature of his own mind, and he realized that he had eliminated completely the suffering of his mind, and he had developed all the good qualities, he said, wow, I found something very special, but I don't know how to teach. And then people came and asked him to teach. So the first thing he taught was the Four Noble Truths. Noble because it's everybody who has all those beings that have achieved a certain realization of understanding how things are. They are called noble or superior, supreme, right? Not like us that have zero control of our minds and are thinking about burritos all the day, no? So like that. So they are noble because of that. And truths because they are not something that it was invented. It was just that they saw how things are. Okay? Is the idea of reality. It's not that they invented anything. It's not that the Buddha invented a law. It's just what it is. He just observed how things are and he recognize and realize that. Okay, so that's why they're called truths. So the first truth is called the truth of suffering. Yes, and the truth of suffering is better translated by the truth of dukkha. Dukkha means dissatisfaction. Okay, but inside of the truth of suffering, we can say that we can divide it because Tibetans love to divide everything into groups, into layers, into lists, into days, and you have 72, and you have the so we can say that we have 8 types of sufferings. We can say we have 6 types of suffering, but we actually gonna talk about 3 types of suffering. Okay, first type of suffering is the suffering of suffering. Means our pains, our physical pains, our kind of like, headaches and emotional distress, when we are kind of like a little bit. Oh, yes, dear, if you want to cut close over there. Yeah. So that is like the first type of suffering. The suffering that we all recognize, that everybody has, all the animals have, and then like, everybody can see that easy. Then the second type of suffering is what we call the suffering of change. That is nowadays what all of us called happiness or pleasure, the suffering of change. What does it mean? I'm hungry. Wow, I need to eat burritos and I'm going to be very happy, right? And I'm going to be happy forever if I have that burrito. You know, wow, it's just going to eat and it's going to be so good. So I eat the burrito. I finish with the suffering of the hunger that I had, right? Because I ate the burrito. In the moment that I do that, I start again to accumulate, let's say, the conditions for the suffering of hunger to come back, right? You understand what that means? It means that it's even though I ate and I finished that suffering, the first suffering, I'm just starting to create the same one again. So it's always like that again and again and again with everything, everything, right? You understand what I mean? And we call that happiness, isn't it? Do you recognize? When we ate, yes. Or, oh, I have someone, I need someone, da, da, da. The moment I have the person that I wanted, I started suffering of being afraid of losing that person. I'm always suffering. The moment I was born, I started suffering of change, of dying. Everything is like this. Everything. Or, the example is like, oh, I'm very hot. So I go, to the shadow and I say, oh, it's so good. Oh, yeah, it's so good. And then I stay too much in the shadow. Then again, I start to get cold and I say, oh, no, I need some hot. And then I go to the sun. And that is our lives. We live our lives like that, going from one side to the other, from one thing to the other, looking to fulfill that dissatisfaction, right? Of the suffering of existing and then trying to replace it with another one. So that's why it's the suffering of change. But that we call happiness. Very hard to actually recognize this one. Yeah? It's easy. We are here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, it makes sense. But we continue, as, as our friend said yesterday, I understand, but I still get angry with my friend. Yes, because it's just so ingrained that we ended up getting angry, and doing these things, believing that when I get these, I understand. Yeah, with the burrito, I understand. Oh, of course, da, da, da. But with the job, with that person, with that situation, with that trip, with that, we don't. We don't. We actually believe that when we get, it's just because I didn't get all the conditions right yet. Okay? So that is the suffering of change. The third type of suffering is a little bit more complex in a way because it's called the all-pervasively suffering or all-pervasive compounded suffering. What does it mean, this big word? It means that right now our bodies and our minds are in the nature or have the potential to suffer because of the way our minds and our bodies are right now. What does it mean? Easy to understand our bodies are in the nature of suffering, right? Easy. We have the potential to suffer in our bodies. The mind, it means that actually because we are under the influence of the negative emotions, because we are under the discontrol, under the control, or we are completely uncontrolled with our minds. Therefore, we are under the control of the disturbing emotions like anger, like attachment, and all of that. And we have karma, means we have all of these seeds in our minds, all of those habits completely, some conscious and some most unconscious habits, right? Therefore, we're gonna suffer. Yes. If we don't eliminate these two things from our minds, we will suffer. And where these two things come from? From our wrong perception, our wrong view of how things exist. What does it mean? It means that things exist in a certain way, but we experience them differently. For example, we just said the suffering of change. Things are in the nature of change. That's the reality. That's why I said the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha didn't invent anything. He just saw. So the nature of reality is that things change. Everything is changing. The universe is changing right now, even though we don't think. The the earth is changing, right? The sun is changing. You know, the sun will explode and finish at some point, isn't it? The earth is gonna finish, right? Even is like 20 billion years from here from now, but it's gonna finish. So everything it's in the nature of change. Everything will change. Everything arises, stays, and disappears. That is the nature of things. So we don't see things like that. That is the way reality is, and how it appears to us, how we experience things, not like that. We experience fixed. I'm not gonna die. I'm not gonna die today. You know, I don't want my friends to die. I don't want my family to die. I don't want this person to die. Yes, of course we don't want because we like them, their existence. But they will. So that is a very gross idea of understanding how things exist and how they appear to us wrongly. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit more about that because understanding that is the basis of Tantra. Okay? So then the truth of suffering is that the three types of suffering. The causes of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering is what we just described, the negative tendencies, the disturbing emotions, right? Because when I'm under the disturbing emotions, I do things with my body and my speech and my mind, it makes me suffer. And the habitual tendencies of continue doing that again and again. Yes? And the third noble truth, because the Buddha was a cool guy, he said, yes, there is suffering. Yes, there are causes for this suffering. But don't worry, there is a cessation. They can be eliminated. Okay? So the Buddha said that through the correct view, seeing things in accordance with reality, in harmony with reality, without this wrong appearance, all of the suffering disappears. Make sense what I'm saying? Yes? Yes? So that's what the Buddha said. So then the Buddha said, don't worry, not only this, but there is a path for you to do it. So there is a way for you to follow. Yes? So that is the fourth noble truth. Okay? So that is why we say that the aim in Buddhism is actually that true cessation, the true cessation of that suffering. That suffering that is based on understanding what suffering is, because if we don't understand what suffering is, like the suffering of change, we're not going to stop doing it. Hmm? No? And then by understanding the suffering, what is the suffering, we understand what are the true causes of that suffering, and we understand the true path that will bring to that cessation, to that elimination. So far, so good. A lot of information. It's just going to be a lot of information today. Online people, also, if you have questions, just put it here. But someone already put something. Have a great time. Okay, have a great. Yes, we're going to have so much time. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the true cause of suffering, okay? Which is the misunderstanding of reality, the misunderstanding of how things exist, okay? A miscomprehension. I Google all of these words, you know, to see how do we do that. Miscomprehension, a misunderstanding of how we exist, how others exist, and how everything in our relationships, our actions exist. Okay? So that confusion, if I think that I am a solid, non-changing person, if I think that I am a specific way of being, if I have to be solid and concrete and really, how can I say, limited, right? If I think that I am permanent in a certain way of doing it, then if I believe in that, then I start to develop attachment for things that will make that idea of me happen and exist. and I will develop anger or aversion to anything that might cause harm for that completely fixed, permanent, solid way of existing. You understand? That is very important to understand. Because then we start to really start to touch the reason why we suffer. Because we have a very solid idea of us. If we would understand that the reason why we do this or that is because of habits and therefore changeable, we would not be so tight, so limited about ourselves and about others. Because we also limited others, right? That person is like this because that person did like that, and they become very solid, very kind of like permanent way of existing, right? This is coming from us. So that is why, this confusion brings these disturbing emotions to arise. Because I solidify that. So I want to protect. The moment I solidify and I make it permanent, I create a me and others. I create this division. Instead of understanding that I have a body that is changing, easy to see that the body is changing, isn't it? Huh? Easy to see that the body is changing, and the mind as well. Not only the mind is changing from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, because you have the roller coaster of emotions, as I like to say, but also through your ears. You are not the same person that you were 2 years ago, 5 years ago, when you were a little girl, a little boy, right? So that means that things change, that the mind changes. We don't see it like us like this. We see us very permanent. No, I am like this, I have this. And then we keep those mentalities, those experiences that maybe happened when we were kids, right here, right now. We bring with us. Because we solidify, we are like this, and then we just try to interact from that point of view. Yes, Steve.
One of the things I'm hearing is that part of our being solid is part of what we do because we think we're solid is try to block out anything that brings up those experiences in the past. So not only are we dealing with our physical desires, but we are doing everything we can to forget about,
To avoid,
to avoid
experience things that we think, are solid and continue to happen and will happen again, without realizing that nothing can happen exactly the same. Like it's the water of the river, right? You see the water of the river, it looks like the same water, but the water that you saw here will never be the same the next moment. Makes sense what I'm saying? It's always gone, always, right? It's always a new water, let's say it like that, right? That's beautiful, huh? Write down. That is the idea, okay? That's very important because then we start to see that it's us trying to make that water or thinking that that water it's fixed. No, we fix or we crystallize that water, and then we keep repeating the same patterns, right? Or trying to get out of happening that thing again, right? However, that the more we try to get out of that, the more we actually create the cause for it to happen again. We're going to talk about that later. But the more we actually think, oh no, because that person is doing that to me, so I'm sure that that person doesn't like me, right? I just no, it's very good this thing. I know that this person doesn't like me, so then I start to treat that person as if that was true, and I am creating the cause for that person not to like me. You understand? That's easy to see. That's exactly what happens to us all the time. I had today a situation that was exactly like that. I had to talk to someone and they couldn't understand that I said, you are creating the situation in your mind. Because she was saying, no, because she thinks these and these and these about me. And I said, it's not true. She doesn't think. And because she believes that this is real, because she believes that that person thinks in this way about her, she's creating the conditions for actually that person start thinking in this way about that person. You understand? So that is the confused mind. Okay? So how do we do that? We need to develop understanding. Understanding of what? Of what? Two things that we need to understand. We need to understand the way things exist, so the way that they actually are, and we need to understand, which is the hardest part, the impossible ways that we are creating of how things exist. You understand about what I mean by that? Yes. Say that in a different way. So it's like the way we are perceiving things, yeah, it's all impossible. Impossible ways of existing. Impossible. Right? I am fixed, the person is fixed, the situation will happen again, you know? All of these ideas that I just said is like the river, so no possible, but we believe it is. Right? So we need to recognize this as an impossible way of existing. And that is the hardest because this is our reality, our day-to-day life. It's everything that we are doing, thinking, you know? And then we need to start kind of like saying, is it true? Is not true? Is it like, does it make sense? Does it is really like that? That person is really like that. Am I really like that? Right? So we start to kind of like question in a good sense of going and finding the confused way. And then if we find the confused way, the impossible way of existing, we say, okay, if it doesn't exist like that, how does it exist? How does it exist then? Then we're gonna see how it exists by causes and conditions. That means changing, right? I change, that person change, everything changes. And then we can say, not only that, but also things are labeled by my mind, right? I am the one labeling the situation, right? There is a thought, there is a situation, maybe a conversation with someone, and then you label that thing. No, very bad, right? And the other person says, "Oh, I had such a good time with Sharon," or you know, and then you like, "Oh, I had a horrible time." So which one is true? None. None is true because we are creating in our mind. I'm believing that it was bad and this is happening bad, and I'm believing that this is good, and I'm believing it was good, inherent good, like coming. The experience in itself is good. Yeah.
But how do you evaluate reality then? Because if you're in a situation with another person
Yes.
and things are happening, you're interacting,
Yeah.
and if neither person is
Is only
evaluating the things,
it's not evaluating. We are evaluating based on a relative reality. Means it's good depending if I'm comparing to something else, right? Good or bad only exists like that, right? Look, for example, we're gonna try Steve's cookie in a minute, right?
okay,
So we all gonna have a good or bad experience, right?
yeah,
You're gonna say good based on other cookies that you already tried and what you decided it was good. Yes, cookies. Yeah. So and you're gonna decide if it's bad based on your ideas and your experiences of other cookies. And you're gonna say, no, 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 there's that one from Publix or for this is amazing. You know?
so there's no reality in the cookie.
There's no good or bad in the cookie. That's it. You know?
It does exist.
It-
It exists conditionally, not a nihilistic thing.
yes. So there is no such thing as a good or bad inherent or from the side of the cookie. Yes? Because if there was this goodness or badness quality in the cookie, yeah, you understand like this?
Yeah.
We all would have to experience. Yes? And there's no such thing with anything. Even though sometimes it's hard to believe because we are all experiencing the same thing, but it's not. There's no such thing, nothing. We make jokes, we crazy Buddhist people, you know. It's kind of like I like to make jokes like, you know, ice cream is the only thing that is inherently good that everybody likes, or chocolate, you know. But even chocolate is not true. There's people, crazy people in this world. I know hard to understand, but there's crazy people that don't like chocolate, right? So the goodness or the deliciousness, as I like to say, there is no such thing in the chocolate. So it's appearing to my mind like that. Huh? It's appearing as as the deliciousness or the goodness. It's in the cookie. It's in the chocolate. That's how I experience, isn't it? Because the moment that I say to you, and especially Steve, the moment that I'm gonna say to Steve, Steve, bad cookie. Oops. Right? There is a why for him. He's gonna have a why because he believes that inherently they are good. How come someone cannot say I'm tasting it and I know I'm experiencing and it's good? You understand?
It's so hard to comprehend that all of this is not, we're not really grasping the real reality, but it's like,
It's not that there is no such thing as reality, as if there was kind of like a parallel universe that we are not accessing, like Matrix. Not like that. It's just what is not. Ranji, I'll ask you. Keep the hand there. I'll give you a moment, okay? But what is not happening? What is happening that is wrong is that the way those experiences, all of these experiences that we have, the way that they are appearing to us, the way we are experiencing them, right? That is the wrong thing. It's nothing to do with the object. I'm not saying that there is no chocolate. I'm not saying that there is no cookie. I'm not saying that there is no, even the concept of goodness. We can say, yeah, because we say, but it's only relative. Means it can change. No? It's in the nature of change. Yeah, makes sense? Yeah? Because even the cookie, if I had ice cream, then I'm gonna have the cookie. Maybe the cookie is not gonna be so nice. So even the cookie that for me normally I label as good, also can be labeled as bad. So the goodness and the badness, nothing in the cookie. Then we can bring that to me, the way I see myself, right? I am like this, I am like that, I have these habits and I have that and I do this and I do that. So I start to see this as if I am inherent. So these qualities or these experiences were self-created or the word inherent sometimes doesn't make so much meaning, you know, inherent, self-existing, right? It's almost like they are permanent, crystallized, that like there is a me like that all the time, right? There's no such thing if we actually analyze it. That's why we call wisdom, because wisdom comes from knowledge and comes from analyzing, right? To develop a wisdom. Only through analysis can we actually discover that that way of existing is not true. We cannot just simply without thinking, without analyzing and looking for the nature, you know, for how these things actually exist if I don't think. It's time. Yes, this is with time, you know, again and again and again and again. And we just go like subtle and subtle and subtle. Your questions have already changed. So you know you are already getting somewhere, even though doesn't feel it, but you are. Ranji, you want to ask something?
Yes. So the question that I have is, would you apply the same analysis to people. And that's part one, because I manage a lot of people, and I'll just say we perceive a certain person to be very lazy in the office, and not only me, but other people, and they are not delivering. And I've tried to look at this person in different ways. So my first question is, how would you apply the same analysis as you did with the cookie to another human being? And in this example specifically, we're trying to solve this problem on really how to get this person to do their work, because everyone's getting a little bit frustrated now, and it's been like a year now, and we're not sure how to handle it.
Yes, very good question. So that's very important to realize that it's not that there is no such thing as laziness. There is a conventional laziness, right? If you go to the dictionary, you have the definition of laziness, isn't it? There is like someone that, I don't know, sleeps too much or whatever it is, the definition of laziness. Someone that doesn't do much or whatever, you know, that allows others to do their job, whatever it is, the definition of laziness. Therefore, there is a conventional laziness. Okay? So, but what is the good aspect of understanding that there is a conventional laziness is that we understand that if it is a conventional laziness, therefore exists because of causes and conditions. Huh? It doesn't exist inherent. So these two thoughts, they are kind of like the same, two sides of the same coin. What it means is that if things exist by cause and conditions, they cannot exist inherently. They cannot exist from their own side. They cannot exist autonomous. They cannot exist in a self-sufficient way, right? What it means being existing in a self-sufficient way, they are in a certain way forever, right? Or they arise without any causes. Huh? So in that situation, Ranji, what is happening is that the employee, if he is fulfilling the criteria of the dictionary of lazy, okay, so he is doing it because of cause and conditions. So you need to check if changing any of these cause and conditions, you know, then you would need to approach him and understand his a little bit more of his life, what is going on in his life, or why kind of like something happened, you know, if there's something, or you're gonna need to also see and check if it is also the group and the company expect you're having an idea of how they say, like production, you know, and yeah, expectations that are different than what this person is doing, right? So it's that means that this problem has a solution, and this solution is causes and conditions. And the good thing of this,
Is that a solution or an explanation?
that is the solution that for finding the kind of like the relative solution, let's say like that, right? Yeah, thank you. But is that idea of that it is the way or the method to actually find a relative solution. Why? Because right now what happens is exactly what Ranji said. We start to get angry because we start to solidify this person in this way, and we think that this person is like that, right? That they kind of like, but they actually just have a tendency or a way of being in this way because of cause and conditions. And guess what? We might try to help and try to change the cause and conditions and might not be able to do it. So then what do we do with this person? We send him away.
Comes to the realization that his paycheck is an illusion.
Exactly, the paycheck doesn't exist anymore, right? It doesn't exist anymore. So you understand, Ranji? It makes sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, completely. I've been trying to reframe it and try to see all the positive things, and it's going on for about a year now. But I completely understand what you're saying, and many people, including HR, they have spoken to the person, and it's definitely this expectation. We expect the person to be up at level A, and the person's like at level C. But I understand it.
that was one of the things that for me, especially because Rinpoche was very kind to me, and he always put me in these very difficult positions, when there was problems, conflicts, or centers falling apart and all of that. So then Rinpoche used to put me in these positions, and I used to kind of like have to understand that because I come from a business background, my expectations were like this, right? Like the centers or the organization, because I come from this, but it's dependent on volunteers, it's depending on this, on that. So it's like the possibilities are here, right? So that is what I love about that is that I'm not trying to change these people, because when I try, what happens? Right? Conflict, resistance, and guess what? There's no such thing as changing others, right? There's no such thing. So therefore, what I started to do is that, okay, that person has the habit to be like that. What I can do in a conventional way to help them deliver what I need from them, right? So then my life became much more about serving others, about thinking about others. And then I go even deeper than that, because then I bring the Dharma and I say, but not only this, that person on a deeper level is suffering because of the Four Noble Truths, right? It's suffering because of the confused mind, because of the disturbing emotions, and because of the karma. So what can I help them to eliminate this while they are doing the job, whatever the job is? Yeah. How can I help them to eliminate this and develop good qualities, right? Then everything becomes Dharma, even the job that they are doing. Makes sense, Ranji, what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely. I don't know if I have enough time to do that, but it makes sense.
We can do moment by moment. Okay, so the sutra approach. The sutra approach is based on these three principal aspects of the path, what we just said. Okay, so renunciation. Renunciation means everybody needs to be monks and nuns. No, I'm kidding, not like that. That's not what renunciation means. Renunciation means I'm renouncing the causes of suffering. I'm renouncing them. I'm renouncing that idea that I am gonna get happiness from the burrito. I still eat the burrito, huh? But I renounce the mind that believes that the burrito will bring me eternal happiness. You understand? That is renunciation. Then just renouncing these and wanting to find, a mind, the renunciation will not only want us to, in this life, eliminate all of these minds, but say, I want to eliminate it forever. So that means in my future lives, I don't want to have to go through this again. Hmm? Because if I have all these seeds, even though I'm cutting the mind now, I planted a lot of seeds. So they will coming back. They will be coming back. They will be coming back. I have no idea what I did yesterday, right? So guess what have we done in past life, right? So we don't know. So that is renunciation. The true renunciation is renouncing that I don't want these contaminations of the body and the mind, means these disturbing emotions and these habits to continue again and again, limiting and deciding my life. Yes, I want to have control. So actually, we say that we are out of control of rebirth, because right now we have no idea. It's like if we go to sleep, we watch it a very dangerous, like how to say, a scary movie, like this. Then we have no conditions for what we're gonna dream. We have no control, right? We want to go to sleep, have a relaxed sleep, and then we start to have nightmares, isn't it? So we don't have control of the mind. And therefore, the same moment when we go to sleep or we go to die, we don't know what is going to come to our minds now and in the next moment. Therefore, we don't know where we're going to be reborn, because it is the last moment of this life, together with all of the habitual tendencies that we accumulated in this life, that will propel us to the next life. The same way of We watching a scary movie and going to sleep. Huh? You understand? Same. It's exactly the same in Buddhism. Okay? Therefore, what we want, I want to choose where I want to be reborn. I want to choose that I want to be reborn in whatever place it is to help others. So renunciation is just the wish to be free from suffering, free from samsara, that kind of like, that round of suffering, the continuity of suffering. Then bodhicitta comes on top of it and say, if I am suffering like this, everybody's like that. So I need to develop the positive qualities, and I need to eliminate the suffering so I can help others. So I can come back and come back and come back and come back and manifest in whatever way possible I can to benefit others. And for that, so then I need to develop the good qualities, and I need to have the correct view of how things exist. So if things exist still inherent for me, no way I'm going to be able to not suffer and not go into my mind. Yes? So the bodhicitta motivation is the basis of Tantra. If you don't have the wish to benefit others, you will not be able to practice Tantra. Because Tantra is transformation. We're going to transform our body, speech, and mind as a tool, or as the body and the mind of a Buddha in order to help others. That's what we're going to do. So that aim of wanting to get rid of my obscurations, my problems, and all of that, so I can develop my mind and my body being perfect, clean, no problems, and full of love, compassion, all of these, that is the aim of bodhicitta, right?
So this is my confusion, because it's like we have to detach from all the desires of this reality,
Mm-hmm.
and but we're doing it to help others. I mean, to me, there sounds like a conflict there. Like I have to detach
Mm-hmm.
from the desires that give me pleasure in this now,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have to detach from that
Mm-hmm.
so I can make the necessary change for
That-
bodhicitta.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm detaching from everything, aren't I also detaching from wanting
Others.
to help others?
Well, you are definitely not being attached of wanting to help others, but you understand that helping others helps you. So you want to do more. So it's kind of like the opposite. Remember, the Dalai Lama called it being wisely selfish. The more you detach from the mind, that of the thinking that if I have these pleasures, I'm going to be happy, this ego is going to be happy, and therefore I'm only think about myself and fulfilling the desires of this me, right? When I transform it into the mind of bodhicitta, which is to thinking all sentient beings are equal in wanting to be happy and not suffer, so I will do whatever I can for them to achieve that, I become happy, truly happy. I get out of the happiness of the material kind of like experiences, the sensory experiences, and I start to develop a mental happiness that nobody takes away from me. That if I have burrito or no burrito, same. You understand?
Yeah.
That is the idea of bodhicitta. Yes, Roy.
Just the development of the enlightenment.
This is the development of the enlightenment mind. So bodhicitta is like bodhi, it means enlightened, and citta is mind, right? So right now, what we are doing is not even is we are practicing to practice bodhicitta. Do you understand? We only start to practice bodhicitta when we enter what we call the grounds of paths, means that we have a direct realization of emptiness and a direct realization of bodhicitta. Okay, what does it mean? It means that I understand that this me inherent doesn't exist in this way. Okay, and I understand that sentient beings are in the nature of suffering, that they are suffering, and I want to do something about it. So what we call the aspirational bodhicitta and the resultant bodhicitta. The resultant bodhicitta is the development of the enlightened mind, right? But as I said as well, even when we directly realize emptiness and we directly realize bodhicitta, we haven't achieved enlightenment. Okay? We start the path at that moment. Then we start to walk the path, which means we start to make and accumulate these minds more and more and more, habituate ourselves into these minds. Yeah? Until they are completely free from the negativities and completely habituated with positive qualities, right? So this is the kind of like, there's a very beautiful Rinpoche once, Lamrim Rinpoche was once doing a retreat. I think it was in California. No, I think it was Washington State, not Washington, D.C., Washington State. And Rinpoche, you know, used to being silent and all of that. And Venerable Roger, you would always bring food, but not say anything and all of that. So, and then after maybe 10 days, Rinpoche would kind of like, Roger came and brought a lunch or breakfast to Rinpoche. And Rinpoche said, hello, how is the weather? And then Roger was a bit like, is Rinpoche finished the retreat? And then he said, no, 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 I had a bad thought, therefore I need to start again. That is the thing. You understand? That is the mind that is in that level, right? All the time thinking about others, all the time positive, but maybe not yet completely. That's what Rinpoche was showing us, even though I had my doubts. But I think Rinpoche was just making fun, you know? But then, okay, one thought. And then, okay, then need to purify these, accumulate merit so this thought never comes back. Then, you understand? That is the idea. So that is bodhicitta, is the basis of it. Why? Because now we're going to start understand. Because Tantra means the meaning of the word Tantra in Sanskrit, tan, no, is to stretch out. Okay? It's something that is stretched out. So what does it mean? That it means that we are bringing all of these practices to renounce and to develop bodhicitta and to develop the correct view in one. So all of these teachings that we are doing for like Lojong and all of that, we do it in one mind. Everything in one. Yes? I like your face, like, it's like, what? What does it mean that, you know? So all of these, we happen simultaneously. That's what we want to do it. Okay, so that's why it's so profound. That's why it's so strong. Because if we bring these three aspects of the path, renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view in one, then we are making a huge transformation, like atomic bomb, right? For the attachments, atomic bomb for the self-cherishing, atomic bomb for the wrong view. Make sense? And therefore, the more we practice these, the easier it becomes, the more we actually, you know, become enlightened faster. Yes? Make sense?
Bodhicitta, there's a famous actor who's a good friend of the Dalai Lama, Richard Gere.
Yes.
He said once, I heard a quote, that whenever I meet somebody, I try to think, what can I do to help them be happy? That
is the mindset of bodhicitta, right? It's what can I do to make these people be happy, right? Because normally I'm thinking what I can get from this person. What is this person going to do for me? No? And in Tibetan, the word Tantra means gyur or continuity. Okay? So that is also, continuity is also something that is stretched out, a continuity, right? It's kind of like a movie. Think about a movie. Many little, no, these little things. Huh? Frames. Little frames. Which one of them is the movie? The continuity of them is the movie. Yeah? Make sense? So that is the idea. So that is the continuity here. That is super important for us to understand, because the continuity that we are talking about here is the continuity of our own minds. Okay? So now we're going to talk a little bit about the most important aspect of Tantra, which is understanding the fundamental purity of our own mind. It means that this continuity of mind, even though right now is completely stained, completely tainted, agitated, no, by the clouds in the sky, by these negative emotions. The continuity of mind is pure, completely pure, can never ever be contaminated. Because that is so, it's like, doesn't matter how confused, doesn't matter how deluded, it doesn't matter. Because these delusions, these negative emotions, these disturbing emotions, they are in the nature of change. Therefore, they are temporary. That is their nature. You understand? And that's the nature. And we know that because we hope that we don't get angry, don't stay angry all day, right? So we know from our own experiences that these minds are in the nature of change, right? However, I'm going to use a word that I don't know if it's going to help anymore, man, but I'm going to make more confused. But the container where these minds appear, the container, they understand the container in the way of like where these minds, like where these states of minds are appearing, right? They are these container, this state of mind that it allows things to appear, it's always there. Because that is the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind is to be pure or clear and knowing. What does it mean? It means that it has the nature, the capacity to things to arise. So if I see something arises in my mind, something arises in my hearing, something arises in my smell, things arise, and I can interact with it, right? There is a knowledge, a cognition happening with that object, because that object appears in my mind, right? When I am hearing a music, it's not there's something inside my ear. There is like something being touched there, like a ding, 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 ding. And then this is coming the sound here, right? So that in connection with this object, that in my mind makes it appear into my mind experience of sound. So that possibility of always being able to be clear and knowing, it's always there because it's the nature of our consciousness. And our consciousness is a continuity. There's no beginning and no end. Yes? That is very important that we start to understand and familiarize ourselves with that, because that is exactly the fundamental idea of also Tantra. Yes.
And even though it's the swift path, you have to first work on the sutras and looking at investigating your own anger and envy and like you can't just start with Tantra.
You need to have the understanding of renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness. Otherwise, you can't understand Tantra, right? That's why I said is the basis is those three aspects of the path. That is the basis, because otherwise it doesn't make sense what we're going to talk, right? Because the idea of understanding the fundamental purity of the mind, it's a very deep understanding, which is not only my fundamental purity, my mind is fundamental pure, but the mind of the Buddhas, the mind of the Guru, the mind of the deity, and the mind of other beings. All of them are pure. What is the difference between them and us? They are not tainted by delusions anymore. So, what we want to do, remember, our aim in Buddhism is to transform or eliminate, not transform, eliminate those gross, disturbances, eliminate them, and simply arise or allow it to manifest that purity. That's what the Buddhas did. The idea is that there is no difference between the nature, the pure nature of our own minds, and the pure nature of the Buddhas, the deities, the gurus. No difference. And the other sentient beings. That's why we don't kill mosquitoes and none of these, because they also have a conscience. Therefore, they have the fundamental purity in their own mind. However, the difference is that our minds are tainted, are contaminated. Contaminated means that it's like temporary contaminated and temporary tainted by these disturbing emotions and these negative ideas and this wrong view. You understand? Therefore, the fundamental idea of Tantra is to do what? Is that this continuity or this Buddha nature, as we like to say, we all have the nature of a Buddha or the potential. We have the potential Buddha nature right now. Okay? What does it mean? It means that the Buddha has Buddha nature because he doesn't have any saying. And we have the potential to manifest that Buddha nature. Yeah? Because right now, our Buddha nature is covered. Yeah? It's there. It's always there. And that is so important. Even when anger is appearing, anger is only appearing because there is Buddha nature. You understand? Because the mind has this characteristic, this nature of being clear and known. So even in anger, even in attachment, there is Buddha nature. But we don't recognize. We stay with the clouds. Huh? We forget that the clouds can only exist because there is a sky. Yeah? We forget about that. We distance ourselves from that. Yes, Steve.
So what we're doing when we experience, like, say, a negative emotion or suffering is we don't realize, okay, our mind is pure. Yeah. And that's just something that happens to be there. It's really inevitable given our current state. And if we can just let go of that,
yes,
recognize that that's an illusion,
yes,
and focus on
familiarize,
focus on allowing our pure mind to manifest.
Yes, that could be a good idea to say. The problem is we can't.
Oh,
I know. Yes, you did. You do it, but we can't because of the wrong view. Almost innate. I'm calling innate, but it's like the wrong view that always makes us simply make it arise again and again and again and again. So why this way of thinking is not the best in a way for Tantra? Because what happens is that then everything that arises, I need to kind of like do that, but things will continue to arise and I don't want it anymore.
Right.
Yeah? Yeah.
So, but I get a sense that the idea is that as you practice, that you increase your awareness of that distinction. And the more you're aware of that distinction, like you can't do it like, but the more, it's not going to go away completely, but the more maybe, but the more you're aware of that distinction, the easier it is for you to let go.
Yes.
And make that stain more temporary.
Absolutely. You're completely right. That is very good way, but it doesn't make it them go away.
I understand.
Yeah, and that is exactly the difference between what enlightenment means in Buddhism. Enlightenment means the completely cessation. It never comes back again. So then you don't need to worry. So you don't need to be familiarizing or being aware. You understand? It's always there, the awareness with the pure mind, because there's no negativities or clouds coming up. You understand? That is
I
the
think
state.
I'm
I think you're
getting
more,
there.
yes. I also think.
Part of what I'm doing is I'm suffering because I'm over thinking.
We are over identifying.
Yeah.
We're identifying with everything, right? And identifying in a wrong way, because we don't use our rational mind. We use our rational mind for everything, but in a to make things appear more concrete in our mind, right? That's what we use. So the Tibetan, in the way of like continuity, we are talking here in some ways three types or three levels of this Buddha nature. So the basis of the Buddha nature, as we can say, is the Buddha nature that is always there. The continuity is always there. But now let's talk about us. It's stained over with this fleeting, this kind of like a temporary stains. Yes? So this is the basis. And then we talk about the path, and the path will be someone or us that have tried or started to really take and remove some of these things, but let's say there's still some stains there. Yeah. So it's that beginning, of kind of like we clean a little bit, but there's still some things to be cleaned. And then we have the result, when we are fully purified, fully awakened to the true nature of our own mind. Yes, that is the result that we are trying to achieve. That's what we want to achieve. Okay. And that is very important that we understand that the principle of transformation in Buddhism. What does it mean? It means that everything in the world, as modern science is saying and seeing, everything is in the state of transformation. Okay? It's transforming, it's changing. Therefore, in Buddhist Tantra, we are saying that our own body and our own minds are also in the nature of changing, because they are in the nature of energy. Okay? So we in Tantra, we're going to use all of the different types of energies that we have in our body and our mind in order to really do what? Kind of like transform this ordinary, completely limited, deluded image of ourselves. And what we want? We want to achieve the mind and the body of the Buddhas. What is the mind and the body of the Buddha? A mind that is completely free from all the states, and a body that is completely free from any suffering, and have as a basis of existing compassion. Right? So how do we explain how we are born right now? We are born because of our karma, right? Because of our karma is propelling us like, oh, well, I didn't, when I go to die in this life, I think, oh, I didn't do everything I needed to do it and all of that and blah, because this me looks so real, yeah? So concrete, this me, this Kalden that has to do many things. So then I say, oh, I need to come back, then I come back again with this inherently sense of me. Yeah. So I come back, but because of my karma, God knows, who knows where we're gonna be, right? So when we are a Buddha, the way we manifest is completely different. It's out of compassion. So I choose, I know exactly what is between that causes and conditions that are needed for me to manifest in a way that will be. So even if I'm manifesting as a human being, I'm not I'm not manifesting from the delusions and karma. I'm manifesting from compassion. Yes? That is different. Okay? So how do we do this? How do we apply this transformation to our minds? Through what we call meditation. Yes? That is what it is. Familiarization. That's what meditation is. And familiarization where we, the subject, we, okay, is the business. We are business, the business of the meditation. It's the phrase of Lama Yeshe. You are the business of your meditation, right? It's not the object. We are not analyzing the situation. We're not analyzing others. Oh, because my mom asked like that, because that person did like that. We're not doing that. Huh? We are analyzing the nature of our minds and the nature of the emotions in our minds. Okay? So the more we understand the reality and understand our own problems, the more we can transform not only ourselves, but understand the problems of others. So that's why meditation is familiarization with oneself. Familiarization, is to really transform and realize how we can eliminate our negativities. So we need to familiarize of our negativities so we can eliminate them. Familiarize means being aware of them, right? And then what we are actually familiarizing with, positive qualities, right? But if we just do that and, we just want to do that and then disappear, don't do anything, that is not the aim. We are doing this again with the bodhicitta motivation. Has to be there. The bodhicitta intention to wanting to transform our body, speech, and mind to help others needs to be there. Okay? So what? Because we want to transform our body, our speech, and our mind in ways to benefit others. Yeah? So the way that Tantra is going to use meditation is to achieve the perfect body, speech, and mind in order to help others. Okay? So what we're going to do is that we're going to start wanting to emanate ourselves, our body, our speech, in ways that are going to really benefit others. And for that, we need, we need what we call manifestations. We need to manifest this. So manifestations, we all know manifestations because we all manifest it differently. We manifest anger, we manifest love, kindness, compassion, patience, attachment. Normally we are mainly manifesting attachment, anger, jealousy. No? Sometimes a little bit of patience, sometimes a little bit of compassion, sometimes a bit of this. No? So the thing that is important here is that the way or what we manifest, okay, we actually create. So if we're manifesting anger, we will create anger or angry environments, angry situations. I heard that these things, you hear what you want to hear. You understand that what that means? So you create what you want to create. So we manifest, okay, in different ways. So the way we think is the way we're going to manifest. So the qualities that we are looking in ourselves, okay, is important because these will affect me in the way that I am going to manifest that. So what is important here is for us to more and more start to understand, okay, and kind of like want or familiarize our minds. That's the word that I was trying to reach. Familiarize our minds with ways that we want to manifest that we can bring us to enlightenment. Like if we want to become doctors, we want to manifest that. So we're going to manifest ways to become a doctor. But here we are trying to manifest in ways to become a Buddha. So then we need what we call these Buddha figures. Okay? The Buddha figures, they are, or Idans, or deities. They are not Hindu deities or Greek deities. They are not God. Okay? Like something out there. It's not like this. That's not what they are. So what they actually are, is that they are representations, they are manifestations of the enlightened mind, representing each of them a quality of the mind, a quality that we will need to develop in order to become a Buddha. I lost you. No? You okay? Is you okay? So we are talking about, when we're talking about Buddha figures, aspects of the Buddha. So compassion, you know, or medicine in the way of like actually purifying and helping others at everything, or you know, action or purity or wisdom here behind me. Okay, so we are aiming to achieve these states through visualizing or um, seeing ourselves, okay, because we know, let me go back so we can bring it back to you guys. Because we understand that we have Buddha nature, but we know that right now we cannot manifest from this Buddha nature because all of these negative mindsets are covering it, yeah, are blocking it. I need to do what? I need to kind of like familiarize myself through meditation with these aspects of my mind that are actually pure, so I can start manifesting them. Make sense? Because the same way that I manifest that if I habituate my mind with anger, I manifest anger. If I habituate my mind with wisdom, unlimited compassion, unlimited love, unlimited this, I'm going to start manifesting this. Yes? Because I understand the nature of my own mind. So that's why I said, and because I want to do that, so I can help others. Because the more I develop these qualities of the enlightened mind, these qualities of my pure mind, right? The more I allow them to manifest these, the more I can help others. So that's why Tantra, when we do some prayers, you know, we say, may I quickly, very quickly achieve enlightenment, because sentient beings are suffering. So I really want to familiarize myself with these different, you know, qualities of the nature of my own mind, so I can develop them, so I can manifest them. Yes. So the Eden or the deity, they are kind of like what they are doing. What is like we are trying to unify their quality that they represent with the quality that we have within ourselves. That right now it's tainted. Hmm? It's a bit kind of like looks a little bit like a, but that is what we're trying to do, huh? So these figures, no, these Buddha images, they are kind of like, you know, uh, um, they are each manifestations, they each have a quality of the Buddha mind. They are already a Buddha, so that means that they are perfect, they perfect all these qualities, but because they are so kind to us, they are manifested in specific manifestations. Why? Because each of us have different propensities. Propensity, yes. So, for example, for someone, some people need to have that connection to more wisdom, right? So, through the development of their perfecting their wisdom, they achieve enlightenment. Some others, through perfecting of compassion, like you know, Chen Rezig, which is the representation of the enlightened mind in a compassion form, because there's 1,000 arms to help others, that person achieves enlightenment. You understand? Is it making sense? I think it's very logical, but I know that I'm very confusing, so I know that sometimes it can make a difficult. So all the problems are with me, okay? So you don't think about it. So what are we gonna do? That comes the dangerous part right now. Okay? That's why we say that we need to have renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness. And then we're going to talk about what else we need to actually practice Tantra, which is a teacher and an initiation. Okay? So we cannot just practice Tantra like this. What it's going to do is that we need then to start to see and visualize ourselves as if we would have those qualities perfected, as if we would have the voice, the speech perfected, meaning everything that we do, that we say, it helps others. And everything that I do in my body, it helps others. So that's why we're going to visualize ourselves as these different deities. So we can start believing that we have the potential to be like this. Okay? And so we can manifest benefit for others. Something here that is very important that, I have so blessed to have someone like Kundra as one of my teachers, because Kundra, once we were talking about it, and she said, the problem is that when we start to study Tantra and we start to see all of these things, is that we start to see these and thinking that we're gonna want, or we will become, or the aim is to become a blue being, right? Or a yellow being or a green being. Nothing like that. We need to understand that each color, each mudra, each mudra means hand gesture, each way of sitting, each artifact represents a quality of the mind. So what we are trying to do is but a quality of the mind that has been perfected. Yes? Perfected means it's unconditional, it's unlimited, and it's automatic. Means spontaneous. Yeah. So the more we start to really visualize these Buddha figures, yeah, we start to bring that result of our own. Remember, we talk about the different types of results here. The fully purified Buddha nature, we start to bring it now. We start to visualize and familiarize ourselves with that. Dun, 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 dun. We're gonna, okay? Yeah, that's what I was talking about. And many of these figures has lots of faces, arms, legs. So that's what I'm saying, is not the idea that we want to start, we want to go to the I don't know, some plastic surgeon and say, I want to glue another leg or another arm here. Not like this. Yes? Not like that idea. Ranji.
Just a quick question. So each emotion, for example, is represented by a different figure. Or, for example, wisdom is one figure, anger is one figure, happiness is another figure.
So what I didn't put it here because I thought that if I would go there, we would never finish this class. But when we talk about actually is the 5 poisons, okay, and the 5 wisdoms, and therefore the 5 Buddha families. So each of the 5 poisons, which are and the 3 poisons, and attachment, anger, aversion, pride, and attachment, anger, ignorance, pride, and wrong view. These kind of like 5 ones, they are in some ways the main, let's say, eliminations of what we are trying to eliminate from the mind. If we eliminate these, we eliminated all the other ones, right? It's like all the other ones are nuances. I learned these nuances of these 5, right? So that means that what we would do is that the Buddha figures, they will represent in their format, in their colors, in their family. So the antidotes, the direct antidotes for these 5 poisons. Yeah. So we call the 5 types of wisdom. So that's why we have like the Buddha, white Buddha, the red Buddha, the white family, the red family, the blue family, the green family, the yellow family, and all of them, they represent a certain kind of like wisdom that will counteract these 5 poisons. right? But then what happens is, because why make it simple, right? Because we are very complex people anyway. We're gonna then manifest even that, like for example, in this figure here, we have that little friend here, blue on the right, with the fire and all of that. Okay, so we're gonna manifest these wisdoms not only in a kind of like calm, I'm using bad word here, calm way, but we're going to manifest it as well in a wrathful way. Wrathful? Wrathful? Wrathful way. Yes? Means that it's even, for example, we say that there is the manifestation of compassion also in a wrathful way. Yes? What it means that sometimes, because if you have a kid that is behaving badly and is going to put themselves in danger, you need to go and really take them with force. Yes? So that means that if that is the manifestation that might manifest in a way that looks like it's angry. Yeah? So that is what is the idea of this. But not only kind of like they represent a certain emotion, but each of the arms, the legs, the faces, the artifacts, they represent something. So for example, the 6 arms, when we have someone with 6 arms, I don't know if we have anyone here with 6 arms, but they represent the 6 perfections, right? Or when they have, most of them have holding the dorje and bell. And the dorje and the bell represents wisdom, means that things exist with causes. Why? Because the moment that I ring this, because there is this, sound can exist. Right? And the Vajra, which means unbreakable, is the type of compassion we need to have towards others. Right? It's unbreakable compassion. So when we see some of these images, with kind of like holding these things, they are representing that they have conquered, that they have perfected. Yeah. Maybe I don't know. Someone here has it, maybe not, but because we don't have so many also highest yoga tantra here. I don't know if we're gonna get there, but Vajrasattva, yeah, when we have Vajrasattva practice or something like that. So that's what happens. Or the whist, like the Manjushri. Manjushri is kind of like holding uh sword, sword, a sword to cut, the ignorance, but is actually holding with the compassionate mind, the compassionate hand. So it means that it's the union of the compassion and the wisdom, right? So everything has a meaning. All of these colors, all of these, like even like the clothes, even the hands, even the eyes, even everything has a meaning to train the mind and to develop those qualities and those characteristics. Okay,
Venerable
so
Kalden?
yes.
Hey, it's Vicky. How are you?
Oh, hi dear, how are you?
Hey, on that some other thing you had up, it said we're not talking about Hindu deities, but I think it should be mentioned that many Buddhist deities or yidams are the same in Hinduism, like Chakrasambhara or Vajrabhairava or Shiva, okay?
Yes, but they are not necessarily the same. So I'm gonna have to debate with you. They
Okay, I'm
don't have
ready.
the same, they don't have the same manifestations. They have different manifestations. So for example, many people say that Ganesh, no, because there's Ganesh in Hinduism, and we have a Ganapati, right? Which is kind of like also a elephant form, but it's totally different the way it is represented, and not only represented physically, but especially that explanation that I am saying, right? So for example, Shiva and all of the deity gods, they are in the realm of the deity of the gods in Buddhism. Therefore, they don't represent the enlightened minds and the enlightenment qualities of the Buddhas. So we cannot use them as a way to visualize ourselves in order to achieve enlightenment, because they don't represent the enlightenment mind. That is different, because otherwise we could visualize ourselves like Mickey Mouse and thinking that these would kind of like, just visualizing ourselves as something would make that change, right? Or, oh, I visualize myself as, I don't know, someone nice, Nelson Mandela. No, what's the name of that? The nun? No, the nun.
Mother Teresa.
Madre Teresa. Okay, so I'm gonna myself as Madre Teresa. The thing is that if I manifest and I visualize myself only as Madre Teresa, I'm gonna be contained, restricted to being like Madre Teresa. And here, what we are talking about is that we are wanting to be like the Buddhas, which is perfect mind, perfect compassion, perfect power to manifest in whatever way. So those Hindu gods, they are in the nature of, they're still in samsara. They are not completely, developed the mind. That's the explanation of the Buddhism. Makes sense, Vicky?
Not necessarily, but it's obviously a very big discussion and debate, so it's not the place.
Yes.
I
Yes,
just
yes,
wish,
yes.
yeah, I just sometimes wish that Buddhists would give more credit to Buddha's background.
Yes. Well, I think that definitely there is, and especially not only to Buddha, to Hinduism, but if you think about it, what happened in Tibet was that I didn't talk about it today because also if I would, but I think you're completely right. I should have put it a little bit into a context, but as historical context. But in some ways, what happened is that like also many of these manifestations of the enlightened mind, they came or they've been adapt, let's say like that, from the Bon religion, which was the indigenous religions that existed in Tibet, right? Like the North Americans, like have, sorry, like the Indians, exactly, exactly. So there was the Indians of that time, so they had kind of like um um deities, or they have kind of like a gods or whatever for the forest, for the water, for they had that. So some of those symbolism symbolism came, so to help the Tibetans to make that connection. But then the Buddhism like gave a different symbolism because they also transformed that. So that is maybe the same with the Hindu gods and Vicky. But definitely there is an influence in that way. Roy?
I think Buddhism does acknowledge the roots of Hinduism, Vedic, Upanishad, whatever. That does not validate the Hindu gods as being Buddhas.
Yes.
They're gods.
Yes.
Just because we acknowledge the roots doesn't elevate them to the level of Buddhas.
Yeah, I understand your point. I think that what Vicky was trying to say is more like that. Is like there are certain influences for the visualizations of that we're gonna do, and the kind of like out of the symbolism. But the symbolism might be there, but the aim is different. And that is important, right? It is to become a Buddha, right? It's to achieve that enlightened mind and to achieve to perfect, right? That kind of like those qualities in ourselves. So that's why when we are doing these meditations, we are imagining ourselves, as these Buddha figures. We are doing hand mudras or, gestures with these, and we are reciting prayers and reciting mantras as if imagining that our energy that we have right now, right, which is in the nature of purity, of Buddha nature, but it is tainted by the negative emotions, are gone, as if the taint, the taints, the taint, the stains, the stains are gone. Yes? These things are gone. That's what we're trying to familiarize ourselves with. Okay? That is the idea. I think I'm gonna skip mandala because I think your minds are gonna be a little bit.
Yeah.
But mandala just means that it's also a representation of the environment. Right now, we see the environment as being dirty and bad but the environment is also an appearance of our minds. Yes? Easy to see. There was no such thing as um, 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 climate change maybe 80 years ago. Because of our minds, we created climate change, right? Easy to know that. Because of there was no such thing as pollution of factories 200 years ago, because there were no factories, right? We created through our minds, yeah? In our minds, we created, and then we physically created the factories that now created the environment that we are. It's the environment is created by us, right? That is interesting, important to understand. So that's what mandala. So mandala is the purified. We visualize the environment that we are, the environment that the deities, that the Buddhas live, as something completely pure. Yes, so that is the idea, to help us. There are different classes of tantra. Okay, so different classes that we're going to use different aspects of this energy. So some of them we're going to do more emphasis on external body exercises. Okay, but of course inner exercises, so these visualizations and all of that. And some of them are just going to be more inner, and some of them very inner, internal practices. Yes, which is especially the highest yoga tantra, which is the highest. So it means that if we practice highest yoga tantra, we can achieve enlightenment in this life. Okay? Sorry? Anuttara Yoga Tantra. Yes. So that is what Anuttara Yoga Tantra is. Okay? So what it is that we are actually using very subtle aspects of the body and the mind. All the chakras, the wings, the energies, the channels, everything that kind of like constitutes what we call the subtle body and the subtle mind. Okay? So we're not gonna go there and not gonna have time. Okay. So for us to be able to practice these practices, we need an initiation. We need to be initiated on those initiated on, yes, initiated on those practices, right? Why? Because we need to receive these, let's say, influence or this inspiration from someone that already knows, has done that, so we can start planting the seeds in our minds, so we can start activating this Buddha nature in us, right? So we need someone to show us that we can do that. Like, I'm not giving an initiation here, but you guys are now learning about all of these things, so now you guys can start thinking about that, right? So then what is that an initiation is an is an event, and I put it this, it's a beautiful picture of Kandala Rinpoche, that when it's properly done, we do something, while the initiation, while the Lama is giving us the initiation. We are reciting a mantra, we are kind of like, making visualizations already, and we're visualizing the Lama or the Guru in some ways, and we're visualizing ourselves in some way. So we are uniting. Yes, that kind of like practice. We call it. There's two levels of highest yoga tantra that we need. We have approaching and completion. Approaching means we are literally approaching the qualities of that deity. So that's why what we do in these things after we have the initiation, we repeatedly, fertilize and make that seed again and again and again in our minds. So we make what we call approximation retreats. So what it means, we do a certain practice a certain number of times, and normally includes doing mantras 100,000, 1,000,000 times, right? So we're going to repeat the same prayer with the same mantra again and again and again, so we can familiarize ourselves with the qualities of that deity, what it represents. And then after, we're just gonna kind of like see ourselves more and more and more as that deity, right? So in the approximation aspect, we are visualizing the deity in front of us. Yeah, we are just visualizing in front of us and familiarizing ourselves. Oh, okay, so there is 4 arms. That arm means that. That arm means that. That arm means that. Okay, that means this. That means that. That means so. That means that this Buddha, when it appears in this way, is that he's manifesting, wanting to manifest compassion and love and this and that, right? So I start to familiarize myself with that. So if that Buddha can manifest in this way to benefit others, I can also manifest in different ways to manifest to help others. So I don't need to be just, the kind, nice monk. I can also scream at someone and bah, if I need to. Huh? You understand? That's what the freedom is, right? Because I understand the nature of my mind and I understand that. But for that, we need to have a lot of control of the mind. Okay? And then the realization, the generation stage means we generate ourselves. We see ourselves as the deity, as the Buddha, perfected already. Yes? We also take vows when we take an initiation. We don't become monks or nuns, not these types of vows. The vow is that we make a commitment to do a certain practice daily, or to recite a certain mantra daily for the rest of our lives. Okay, so it's important when you go take an initiation that you know what type of vows you're taking. Yes, I'm going to talk very, very, very masculine and feminine in Tantra, because normally we think sex when we talk about Tantra. No, there's a lot of, it was very funny because I put it just like Tantra, or so intro to Tantra in Google. The things that comes is just like,
Became a bubblegum.
because yes, and like,
Many years ago.
but like there was like some retreats. People pay like $3,000 for kind of like going into kind of like these tantric retreats, exploring your sexuality, and I'm like, what is that? Right? It's just like completely the opposite. So in Tantra, in Buddhism, in Tibetan, we use the word yabyan, which is father and mother. So the idea here is to say that in order to have a child, we need a father and a mother. And what is the child that we want to be or to become? A Buddha. That is the child we want. Huh? We want to become a child. So we need the father and the mother energy. So we need, the wisdom and the compassion. That's what it represents. So when sometimes you're gonna see some images of a deity that they are having, a female and a male figure embracing each other, it's not that they are having sex. They are representing that union, okay, of wisdom and compassion, which from that union arises a Buddha. Yes, so that is important. Yes.
Channels on each side of our central.
Mhm.
Is that
We use them.
mother and father?
Not necessarily. They also represent. We can use them in certain practices. We use them as representations of the mother and father as well. Yes, yes. We kind of like, what we want to do is to transform, to bring the energy of wisdom and to bring the energy of compassion and meet in the middle, right? With the central channel, especially. That is when we kind of like actually transform. Because what? The deeper we do that, the more we can actually transform and achieve the body of a Buddha and the mind of a Buddha, right? Because that's what we want. We want to have the mind and the body of the Buddha, so we can be free from our sufferings, free from our limitations, and therefore manifest to help others. Yeah, that is the idea. And very important, so we can finish the relationship with the spiritual teacher. Because the moment that you take an initiation with a teacher, it means that you take that teacher as your guru. and taking someone as your guru in this specific way, okay? I'm not going to talk about, we can one day talk only about the relationship with the spiritual teacher, but in this way, you need to see your teacher as a Buddha.
Devotion part.
Is the basis of everything, because Tantra is still part of the path. Yeah? Because after we develop renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness, then Tantra, right? So if Guru devotion is the basis, no, is the root of the path, it's for the entire path, especially in Tantra as well. And it is actually when we start to do Guru Yoga practices. And Guru Yoga means the union of my mind with the mind of the Guru, which I start to see it as pure as the mind of the Buddha and pure as the mind of the deity. And I start to say, their purity is the same as mine. So I try to unify that. And I start to unify that. So then the more I have to see my Guru as the Buddha. There's no difference. It's just another manifestation, like, you know, the different kind of like deities. The the Guru is manifesting as the manifestation of the Buddha to benefit me. So and to benefit all sentient beings. So then that is what Guru Yoga starts to do. We start to actually unite and see that. And as I was saying, the more we actually familiarize ourselves with the purity of our minds, the more we transform ourselves, right? The more there's no kind of like limitation. We stop being so limited, so poor me, you know, like egocentric and thinking about me, because we start to see the nature that our mind is the potential of our mind is unlimited, completely unlimited. We can do whatever we want, help whatever we want, manifest in whatever we want, if we want. We just want to want. Yes, we just want to want that. Okay. Okay, that's it for today.
Oh,
Thank you, Venerable
start.
Kalden. Thank you very much.
I hope that it was made any sense what I said here. Because I know it is complex. I know it kind of like it has the different this, but Lama Yeshe used to say something, you know, there's a beautiful book from Lama Yeshe. If you want to start really getting to know more, it's called Introduction to Tantra. Yeah, much better than these blah, blah, blah here. And Lama Yeshe used to say, because as I was explaining now, Tantra is at the end of the path, right? We need to first talk about renunciation, about the sufferings, about wanting to get rid of samsara, then talking about bodhicitta, developing this wish to help others, then developing the correct view and all of that. And then we think we're going to practice Tantra. Don't think like that. The more we practice Tantra, the more it's going to help us with these other aspects of the path. The more we develop these other aspects of the path, we can start to approach Tantra. Yeah? So don't approach Tantra on a very kind of like, you know, oh yeah, it's going to be easy. Oh yes, I understand. Because, you know, you're going to start visualizing yourself as, you know, as kind of like a Buddha or, you know, all of this, and then this can create. But if you start to have interest, so you start to read about Introduction to Tantra, you start to understand what does it mean, you know, and then you can kind of like, oh yes, okay, so we can come to teaching like this. Or when we do the prayers, you know, when we come to the pujas, if you come to the puja, many things are going to start to make sense, right? Because the pujas are from these different deities. So then we start to understand what they mean, why they represent, what they represent, and all of that. Yes? Makes sense? Yes, Rebecca? Rebecca? You want to say something? You want to unmute yourself?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Sorry, Venerable Kalden. I know at the beginning you did mention a little bit about it being dangerous, but would you reiterate the importance of not jumping into and also making sure that the teacher is reliable? Is it, because there's so many things online now where, you know, oh, you can come, like you said about the retreats and about also about initiations.
Sure, 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 sure. He's our mother. Rebecca is like our mother. She's taking care of us all the time. She's very kind. She's very kind, you know, always making sure that we don't do stupid things, you know. But you know me, I always do stupid things. So, you know, so it's not good. So it's very good that she says that. But yes, the most important of all of these things that Rebecca was saying is actually understanding the relationship with the guru. That is the basis. If you don't understand the relationship with the guru, then taking any initiation, entering Tantra, doesn't mean anything. You should never do it. Because that is the thing, you're going to start having to see that person as a Buddha. A Buddha doesn't have, only has unlimited and unconditional compassion in your mind. So whatever that person is doing to you, you should see as a way to benefit your mind. So if that person starts to do something that is not according to relative, you know, way, you're not going to be able to actually judge. So that's how abuse happens a lot. Okay? So you need to be careful in that way. Huh? So, and then the other thing, you know, is that if you start to do it without any initiation, you know, and then you just start doing practices, normally all the practices at the beginning, they have the saying if you need an initiation or not. So if you start to do something without the initiation, you're breaking in some ways, or you're creating an obstacle for you to actually not have the correct way to approach that practice, right? Because you're thinking, oh, I don't need an initiation, I don't need a teacher, therefore you're never going to actually get the result of that practice because you need an initiation and you need a teacher to actually do that practice, right? So that I think is very important. And yes, so analyzing the teacher, I think, is the base, is the most important, right? So, but I do recommend, you know, even though Rebecca might not like it, but I do recommend that you guys start thinking and thinking that it's possible to actually practice that Tantra, right? His Holiness used to give what we call the Kala Chakra initiation. You know, he gave a few times, even in America, and he gave it especially in Bodh Gaya. And the way he used to do it was to really make sure that we are creating the imprints, you know, the habit to encounter the tantric paths, the tantric teachings in the future. Why? Because actually when Buddha Shakyamuni, when these teachings of the Buddha Shakyamuni, which will stay for 5,000 years, so already being 2,600 years, so that means we are already downhill, you know, halfway. When Maitreya comes, Maitreya will probably not teach much Tantra. Therefore, we might not be able to actually achieve enlightenment in one lifetime if we don't create the imprints now. No? So that is why it's important that we do that. Okay? That we actually start looking for ways to kind of like to connect. So what it means is that you should use that as a kind of like as an inspiration for you to say, I'm going to practice, you know, renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness, so I can actually practice Tantra. Make sense? Okay. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. It's now 9 p.m. tonight. Wow. You guys are kind of like, you know, need a massage, you know, kind of like or a burrito. That's what you need. So I see you tomorrow. For those that are coming with us to Everglades, we're gonna send you a lot of pictures so you guys can see us manifesting as crocodiles and alligators. Okay, we're gonna manifest as alligators over there, and then on Sunday I see you all here. And if you do, I have a. If you do have some cushions at home or something like that, try to bring because I think we might have a few people in, on Sunday. Okay, so if you can make sure that if you have like a cushion that you can sit because we might not have space. Okay, to everybody to sit comfortably. Okay, And the other thing is that we have a potluck lunch on Sunday as well. So if you want to participate, if you can bring something like cookies or anything like that, so you can do it. Oh yes, we're gonna have cookies now. You guys are not here, so we're gonna enjoy cookies for you. But of course, I go physically away on Sunday, but on Tuesday I'm back online on, and the only thing that I'm not able to do is the meditation on the morning of Monday. Okay, this Monday because the airplane. I was stupid, didn't get the ticket. So then Monday I not, but then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sundays I'm here back again to like push your buttons. Okay, I'm here to insult you.
Tuesdays and Thursdays are only virtual.
Tuesdays and Thursdays are only virtual. Only virtual. If you guys want, for me, I think you guys could come. But sorry.
Will you be doing Tuesdays and Thursdays here again?
Yes. So then well, we're gonna do it online, and then we hope that soon I can come back. Maybe November, something like this. Because until September I go, and then October we go to the pilgrimage, right? So then in November maybe we are creating maybe the causes for me to
Tuesdays and Thursdays are only online.
Yes,
Right.
Tuesday and Thursdays are online. No, everything's gonna be online, but Sunday is very important to make sure that you can come. Not only this Sunday, but most Sunday, because what we do is that we do a discussion group. Yes? The Sundays we will continue with the discussion groups, and then there is the meditation here. There's all of these. So please continue coming to the center. It's very important that we continue coming to the center. Yes? Otherwise, if we don't do that, we don't create the costs for when I come back to have a center, because everybody's online, then there's no need for a center, right? So we continue coming.
So you won't be.
I won't be here on Sunday. What we do is that we put it here, and I give the teaching, and then I make you guys discuss and discussion groups between yourselves. Yeah,
Earlier than you.
that is very
Earlier
important.
date than you.
That is very important. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Reggie.
Venerable Kalden.
Thank you,
Thank
Margaret.
you.
Thank you. Good night.